All right, let's call the meeting to order. Roll call, please. Carson. Yes. Hendler. Here. Osler.
Here.
Bach. Here. Thurston. Here. Maloney.
Here.
Bergen. Ham.
Here.
We have a quorum. Are there any declaration of conflict of interest on the proposed agenda? Item number 7. Okay. Any other? All right. Let's go to a motion to approve the agenda as presented then. Second. Moved and seconded that the agenda be approved as presented. Discussion. Hearing none, I assume you're ready to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. The minutes of our last meeting of the 11th of May were included in the packet of information. Any additions or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, I assume we are ready for a motion. Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded that the minutes of the May 11th meeting be approved as presented. Discussion. Hearing none, I assume you're ready to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign, motion carries. Next meeting is scheduled for the 8th of June. Do I hear a motion to approve the blanket?
So moved.
And a second.
Yes.
Moved and seconded that the next meeting be approved for the 8th of June. Discussion. Hearing none, I assume you're ready to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign, motion carries. Number 7 on the agenda, plan review, 1801 North Main, former Palace Mall. For Board of Adjustment approval of the conditional use permit, proposed outside storage is to be approved by the Planning Commission. The owner would like to place a U-Haul business on the location. And we had a short letter in the information that indicated that they were looking to provide that to the back side of the building, which to me would be the west side. Can we have a further information on that issue?
Okay, what I'll do is I'll get you started. Like you said, there is a letter or a response from Roman Daniels Brown in your packet that gives you a brief description, and then also that what came in on Friday was a drawing submitted by Representative Michael, who is on the line as well. He represents U-Haul, and you can see a rendering of what their proposal is. So with that, I think I'll just let the individuals from U-Haul or the mall people kind of give a little bit more detail on what the proposal, just as refresh everybody's memory, this is a conditional use. And one of the conditions was that if there was any outside storage, that would have to be approved by the Planning Commission. Whether this meets that criteria or not, I guess we just kind of felt it was best that to clear up any confusion about it, that it still be submitted back to the Planning Commission. So Michael, it might be best to maybe kind of talk a little bit about the business, so to speak, and then we'll just kind of open it up for questions.
Okay, my name's Michael Crompton. I am the area field manager for U-Haul, and I work with the dealer network. What we're requesting is not outside storage in per se of like a motorhome or a RV trailer. What this is a discussion to allow us to have U-Haul rental equipment on the property. Ideally, U-Haul likes to see equipment out front, which would be on Main Street. That's where the little map that you have shows the parking out front. The additional parking in the rear is if at any time we have maybe a little bit extra equipment that would not fill, be too much out front, we would be allowed to put it in the back instead of having too much equipment out front. U-Haul's business with the storage location is a contractual. They are our representative to rent our equipment for us. that generates them an income. It generates the city a little income through taxes. And their responsibility is to sort of do a visual inspection on the equipment, make sure it's in good working order, make sure that the equipment is in clean and in proper, cleanliness, and then to park it appropriately out front to build a nice looking display with not stuff scattered all over haphazard. So really, in a nutshell, that's pretty much why I'm on here, is to answer any of your questions on how U-Haul operates. It is not a separate business. They are strictly rent stuff for us. We own the equipment. They don't own anything. They do not have liability to our equipment. We do. So, gentlemen, I would be just shoot me questions. I don't know. Be glad to answer them for you.
Question?
Yes, sir.
In the information that we received in our packet, it indicated that it would be storage behind the building. I guess I would not necessarily be opposed to that, but I don't know as we want that on Main Street.
That would be a strict restriction that I could work with. But U-Haul typically likes to see equipment out front. We have a phrase, a well-planned display is half sold. But it's not storage like in RVs. It's a piece of rotation equipment. It's a piece of rental equipment that comes and goes quite frequently.
What
Hey,
about?
this is Roman Daniels. I can jump.
Go ahead.
This is Roman Daniels Brown. When I sent my original email, we hadn't had additional discussions yet with U-Haul. So that was a very preliminary remark that we had as far as where we thought the equipment would go. My partner, Mark Bigelow, I think had reached back out to Neil clarifying that it makes sense to have that equipment displayed up front with U-Haul to make it more accessible for folks to see it and know that there's that service being provided there. So, I mean, we would certainly like to see the flexibility on the property there to make it, most usable and friendly for consumers, as well as make it a good business that will be effective.
Any other comments?
Jay, I could provide you with a little bit more background on this if you'd like. I guess Neil brought the request to me when it first came in and just kind of asked my opinion as to whether this is something that should even come to the Planning Commission or not. I think kind of the big question at this point is whether the proposed activity even falls under the category of outside storage. You've got other definitions that are under the code that probably fit this situation as well or better. So we thought it was best to bring this back to the Planning Commission, since the code is set up for you guys to make that decision as whether this falls into that category or not. I believe that I told Neil when I was looking at the issue, to me it sounded more like this would be a business that is defined as business services. Joe, if you want to pull that language up. So business services, you can see our establishments primarily engaged in rendering services to business establishments on a fee or contract basis, such as but not limited to advertising and mailing, building maintenance, employment services, management and consulting services, protective services, and equipment rental and leasing, and a few other things. So with that language in there on equipment rental and leasing, to me that's really the essence of the U-Haul business model. But if you go down to the outside storage definition, you can see that that is listed as the keeping in an unroofed area of any goods, junk, material, or merchandise in the same place for more than 1 month. So I guess when you're comparing those definitions, to me, it falls more under the business services category than it does under outside storage. But because with the conditional use, there was an explicit limitation on outside storage, we thought it best to bring this back for council or commission discussion.
Another definition it may be is also if you go to auto leasing, you know, the automobile part of it is also, but it's a trailer. So that's another one that could possibly, that would also be a permitted use.
Yeah, and if you keep in mind then that the business services, that would also be a permitted use in this zoning.
I have another question. What about your existing U-Haul franchisee in the city? Are you going to have 2 franchisees then?
Yep, yes, sir. We've had 2 locations in the city before,
Yeah.
and we will be back at that level again.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Well, let me just make a quick comment, just as an observation. If you all ever go over to the west side right now, I go by the mall and drive by it just to see progress of the project once in a while. And that one day I went over there, there's so many rubber tired donut hole skid marks, peel out marks on the west side. It's like a racetrack back there. And if parking vehicles to show that there's a business there might deter some of that, because right now the lots are virtually vacant on a typical day. So it is a place where obviously people have been hanging out, racing their vehicles or motorcycles or whatever, but sometimes you just should drive through that west lot and just see what the pavement looks like, and you can kind of tell what's been going on there. So I think this would be something that might help deter some of that, make it appear like there's some business continuing on all sides of the building.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, gentlemen, we are ready for a motion.
Well, going to that, I consider the front east side there, you know, Main Street. But I don't like the idea of parking stuff there, but if there's a sign there saying U-Haul, you know, that'd be great, you know, so that could be a attention getter. But parking it in the back on the west is more ideal, yes, so. But I'm not in favor of the front part on the east side.
Do I hear a motion there?
And I guess I would be careful in the way that you're addressing this. Again, you should probably be making the decision as to which category it falls in. Because if it is business services, it's a permitted use. It's not something that you'd be placing conditions on.
Right. So basically, I don't see it as a storage myself. It is a business that it's renting and that. But I guess if I can't put a conditional use on there, I can't say that they can't park on the east side. So I guess I would not be in favor of it. So actually, I'd I make a motion to deny this on that fact that on the east side there, I don't want to see it there. I don't mind the U-Haul sign and then parking in the back. But otherwise, I'll make a motion to deny it for that purpose.
Deny the whole thing, or deny, what are you denying?
Yeah, I guess it's not really a request. You're making a decision as to which category it is.
Right. I said that I don't see it as a story, so I see it as a business. But
Okay.
so can I deny it as a business?
No,
Then
if it's business services, then it's a permitted use, and they get.
So then I guess I'm not going to vote if I can't do it that way.
Joe, can you bring up the definitions again, please?
So basically, if they can use it as a business like that, why are we shouldn't even be hearing it then? I know we
Well-
brought it up, the fact about conditional use, but
Yeah,
if
so,
it's not considered storage,
and that's what we're getting at here,
Right.
is we're making the decision, is it business services or is it outside storage? If it's not outside storage, they don't need anything.
I don't see it as outside storage, I see it as a business,
Okay.
to me.
If you look at outside commercial storage, that fits as well.
So your motion is, we do not recognize this as a storage.
That's the way I see it, yeah.
Do I hear a second to that motion?
Well, if we want to go further, we probably want to let this one die for lack of a second, right? There's still some discussion going on.
That sounds like a plan. All right, the motion dies. Further discussion?
This is exactly the thing that I warned against when we voted for this in the first place. We don't have any control over what gets stored outside now. It's going to turn into a parking lot full of trucks. What's Mitchell Telecom going to say about big rental trucks sitting out in front of their property and come down Main Street? You don't put storage units on Main Street. This is frustrating to me.
I agree. But it's a use for a building that was otherwise sitting vacant.
I don't accept that as an alternative.
All right, gentlemen, do we need further discussion on this issue?
The only thing I'd like to say is I'm not in favor of this as well. I just hope that, you know, if this is a permitted use, down the road, this doesn't bite us. So next time they're in front of us for storage of campers and boats, it's going to be hard to say no when they've already got stuff parked out front.
All right, further discussion? Hearing none, let's move on to the next agenda.
If it was classified as outside commercial storage, then it would be a conditional permit type situation, would it not?
It would, should.
I don't see outside commercial storage listed as a conditional use.
Is it permitted? Maybe.
Do we have further discussion?
In, in HB, outside storage itself is listed as a permitted. Outside commercial storage is not listed under either permitted or conditional.
All right, does that answer your question?
Basically, they can do whatever they want.
Pretty much. All right, other discussion? If we hear no other discussion, yes, sir? Is there discussion on the phone?
Gentlemen, I'm here to answer any of your questions. If you have something that I can help you make your decision with, please ask the question.
Justin, one of the things that we're trying to determine here, whether we feel the classification of this business, or are we trying to determine which category it falls under?
Yes.
So if we had a motion that we were considering this to be, I'm sorry, the one out on the earlier show,
Business services.
business services, or if we classified this as outdoor storage or commercial, depending, if we had a motion for one of those three, that would help the conversation.
Right. Yep. So both of those would be permitted uses. The only reason it was coming back is because when the conditional use was granted, there was an explicit statement in there that there be no outside storage.
And you don't have necessarily a legal opinion. I mean, an argument could be made for easily either one of the two, but an argument could be made for all three.
Right, yeah, I think that there's an argument to be made on all sides of it. My opinion of it was that business services was probably the most applicable, but if outside storage, there wasn't an argument to be made to that, then we wouldn't have brought it here.
I guess the only thing that we have to think about here then is the direction that we received from the council. Do we think of this as outside storage? And if we think of this as outside storage, what about the existing franchise? Is what he does outside storage? I don't think so. So I guess I would favor a motion that says this is a commercial business service, and we go from there.
Is this more about you all trying to find a location for a second site in our community, or is it more about the relationship and that they have with the existing building owner of the former mall?
That is a good question. And I don't know if we are to be the determining factor for that question.
Because if this is more about finding a second location in the community, there's other locations, better locations, quite frankly, suited for this, and we probably know some people that would be welcoming to help them find that location.
We need to make a decision.
Well, U-Haul is more than just renting vehicles, they have trailers, they have equipment.
They have trucks.
That could potentially sit for a long period of time. I think you could argue that this would be outside storage.
I think that's true.
You're right, what does that do to the other location?
I think your question, gentlemen, about it being in outside storage or regular business services, if you do make the decision to change the ruling that U-Haul is now considered outside storage, you're basically going to lock out and close the other dealer. You will shut down the other dealer because what your decision is making is now U-Haul is outside storage. And honestly, we are not outside storage. Our idea is not to have a piece of equipment sit there because we don't have income from it. Our idea is to have that piece of equipment turn as fast as possible. Will some equipment sit longer than others? Yes, sir, they will. Part of my job is to make sure that the equipment doesn't get what we refer to as getting stacked up. Too much equipment in one city. That's part of my job. It's also part of my traffic department's job in Fargo, North Dakota. And U-Haul Corporate's job is to make sure that that doesn't happen. You don't want it sitting there for a long period of time because nobody gains from that. So I think you're right. Go ahead.
What type of equipment will you have at this facility?
State the first part of that again.
What type of equipment will you have at this facility?
What U-Haul has open for rental is 4 sizes of trucks, 10-foot, 15-foot, 20-foot, and 26-foot trucks. We have multiple sizes of trailers. Typically, there's about, typically there's about 4 to 5 sizes of trailers that could possibly be there, and 2 types of towing. So my original little drawing that I sent to Neil shows 20 parking spaces. My goal is to maintain less than that because, like I said, we don't want equipment setting. Nobody gains from that.
Just in reaction to his comments about this would shut down the other U-Haul facility here in the community, I don't see that because of the relationship and that's a car dealership.
Yeah, I don't think that that would be a likely result. I guess I'd have to do more investigation into it, but I don't think that would be the result.
My initial reaction was that this could possibly become a storage depot for U-Haul stuff that doesn't move rapidly in this area. And that I don't want to see definitely in front.
And I think if you start seeing, you know, a significant amount of equipment that's not turning over, you can always bring that back and make a further determination as to whether it has crossed the line from one or the other based off of the way it's actually being used. You know, we're being told how it's projected or intended to be used, but the practice might end up being different.
Hey, this is Roman. Can I make a comment here?
Certainly.
Keep in mind, this is the property we have. I think U-Haul would be on a contractual basis with us. We have a vested interest in not letting clutter get out in our parking lot. We have other customers, you know, we have Dollar Tree over there, we've got Mitchell Telecom. We have other people that we're serving, tenants over there. So we're not going to let a cluster of trucks and other things accumulate out there. We would want them displayed nicely. We're investing a lot of money into the outside, and, you know, we're doing the paint job there this week. We've invested a lot of money in the inside in creating a storage business. So this is something U-Haul came to us with. We think it makes sense as a partnership. We think it provides a benefit to the community so they have access to trucks easily and accessible and storage units. So to think that we're going to let a U-Haul come in and do whatever they want is mistaken because we control the property.
All right. Further information here. Why don't we take a look at this as a service business and take another look at it in another year to see how things are going? What's your thinking on that, guys?
When do they plan to be open?
When do you plan to be open?
Middle of June is when we're looking at as our target date for opening the storage. And we have not signed contract with U-Haul yet as to when that service would happen. We're still in discussions on them with that. So middle of June for storage is what our date is.
So we could, in essence, say today, this is, remind me again, Justin?
Business services.
We could say today, what you're suggesting is we can say today this is business services. Come back a year from now, if we don't like what we see, we're going to change that?
I guess the way I would see it is the way that it's being proposed here today, I mean, you've heard what their plans are for today, and based off of what you've heard, it sounds like there could potentially be a split as to which it is, but it may lean more towards business services. You can say, okay, it sounds more like business services today, but, you know, look at the way that it actually functions over the next year, and maybe we were wrong. Maybe it's actually functioning like outside storage.
Isn't that a dangerous precedent?
It is.
And what would stop us if there were another business in town that a year from now, we suddenly didn't like what was going on? We're gonna bring that back and change that too? This is getting to be a really slippery slope if we do that.
Agreed. But the Board of Adjustment wanted us to look at it. So we have looked at it. And we have to make a decision. Is it going to be considered as outside storage? Or is it going to be considered as a commercial business service? And I'm guessing, in my mind's eye, it would be a commercial business service, because if the next door neighbor to the north that runs a service station came in and asked us to become he wouldn't even have to come in and ask us if he wanted to become a U-Haul franchisee. And we would not have a problem with that. And he's on Main Street as well. So maybe we should say this is a business service and go on about our business. Boy, that crystal ball gets cloudy even with Windex. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I said before, I do believe it's a business service. And if we treat it as that, our purpose here is for Board of Adjustment approval, conditional use for the storage. I don't believe it's storage. So, no, is that?
So let us move on to item number 8. We're all saying we have looked at it as a conditional use per Board of Adjustment mandate to us, and we have determined that it is not a conditional use. Is that what I hear? Silence leads me to believe that's what I hear. Let us move on to item number 8. Mr. Council Representative, please notify the Board of Adjustment that we have talked about this in great length and what we decided.
Very good.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you. Let us go on to item number 8.
Thanks, guys.
A plat of Lot 3A of North Maui's First Edition, a subdivision of Lot 1 in the west one-half of the northwest quarter, also described as Lot 1, subdivision of Government Lot 1, all in Section 31-104-60. We have a drawing of that rascal.
Yep, on page 7, you can see a copy of the plat that's presented, and on page 11 is a copy of the aerial. And I was informed by Chesky that if the adjacent owner is purchasing this property, and that Chuck even has a stipulation that it cannot be subdivided. I don't know, is the adjacent owner here? You're it? Okay. Yep. Did I represent it correctly?
Yep.
Okay. And then I believe the county is hearing this coming up. Yep. So this is outside the city limits.
And it has a drainage easement located on that lot. Is that correct?
Looks like.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, no, you mean a right away.
Right away.
No, you're on this part.
Okay. Excuse me, I'm looking at the wrong one. Discussion.
I mean, I see the adjacent to it, there's a 7-foot wide easement for the, but you have none for, I know you have the 33 foot. Is that gonna make a difference?
It's just as, if the road were ever widened, the easement's already there. So they're kind of doing them as they get platted. So that if and when if they ever would do it, we wouldn't have as many easements. Yeah.
This one's missing that extra 7 foot, what do you say?
Yeah. That's what I-
Oh.
So is there a purpose?
That I don't know.
It should probably be added.
Actually,
might
come
be
to think of it, actually, I think, didn't they rule, I think you can't do that any longer. I think they did it, and then they ruled not long ago that was unless we pay for it, we can't just take it. If I remember correctly now that it rings a bell.
That would have.
Because it would have been free, I think that's when it came in, and then there was a ruling came down some time ago, that you can't just make them dedicated. You have to actually require.
And I
So
think
these
that,
ones are already there. That's the rationale.
and I think,
Now that I remember that.
yes, and I think that was a county requirement because they have to approve this too.
But it's not our,
Not ours.
street.
I'll buy that, I'll move it.
Second.
Moved and seconded that the plat be approved as presented.
Who seconded?
Discussion. Hearing no discussion, I assume you're ready to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried. Next item, a plat of Lot N, a subdivision of previously platted Lot S on Maui Farms, second addition to the city of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota.
This is on page 12. You would see there's only about 3 or 4 of them left. From what I was told is, as you can kind of see, it pretty much follows the plan. Chuck had indicated to me that at some point in the near future, he may propose another one of these type of projects in an area that is not near, in areas which is maybe not as desirable for
Other buildings.
infrastructure
Yeah.
and those types of things. So, says it seems to be pretty popular, so he had indicated to me to share that with you, just to give you a heads up that at some point.
Well, he's got a lot of railroad track frontage there to the south, so. And I think that's what he's doing there, is using railroad track frontage.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded that this plat also be approved. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, I assume you're ready to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Item number 10, a plat of Lot 10, Block 7 of Westwood First Edition subdivision of the southwest quarter of Section 16-103-60. City of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota. I think this is the one that we talked about last week, is it not?
Correct.
Or last time we met?
Correct. Since that time, yeah, this is it's the same plat as you saw. Since that time, Joe and I and Mr. McCormick from SPN, as well as Chuck's been informed as well, did get some final material regarding the drainage plan. He's got the documentation there. We'll probably go over it with you at some time, but it has to meet engineering standards, the criteria they are. They did update the master plan, and they kind of went in and filled in some details. We'll probably have you adopt that at a later date too, but this is pretty much consistent with what they had originally thought of. As you can kind of see, this is starting to get into the drainage area that was identified in most of the other plans as well. So we do have some calculations and so forth. It does seem to be meeting our standard. We'll probably at some later date go over the revised master plan.
We need to do that.
Yeah. Well, it's just that some of the things that changed, particularly the north side. The north side is when we rezoned. We updated that one, but the south side is pretty close, following the, you know, it's kind of made changes, there's a whole proposed right of way that has disappeared and so forth. So we'll probably ask you to adopt that at a later date. So, but nonetheless, we just wanted to let you know that drainage is, we did receive material.
So we got their attention. You guys happy in the city office with what's going on there?
Yep, we got everything we requested, and we have no issues.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded that plat be approved as presented. Discussion. Hearing none, we are ready to vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried. Other business to come before this body at this time? Hearing no other business, we are ready for public input. If you need to address the City Planning Commission on an item that was not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium and state your name and concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken at this meeting.
Curtis Bullington, making an appeal on nuisance property.
Okay, we'll have a nuisance hearing in a little while.
Okay.
Thank you. We have a specific...
Can we talk about stuff that's on the agenda today or not?
Yeah? No action will be taken.
Okay.
I'm Justin Teasy, citizen of Mitchell. One concern on that mall I had, when you guys were talking about it, was as I drive by, I noticed they've never mowed it this year. You know, some of the things that, you know, once they start not mowing it, what's the next thing they're not going to do? And the parking lot hasn't been sealed or redone at all, so it's the first thing people see when they come to town. And so, just something to take into account. Thanks.
That hasn't been mowed all year?
No.
Wait, there you go.
Thank you.
We may not take any action on it, but somebody else is sitting in the audience may. Is there other questions or other comments? Hearing none, we are adjourned. And we are going to meet in just a few minutes on a nuisance. Several of us are on the nuisance board, and several of you are not.
I don't know news. Nothing.
I see it, but I know nothing.
Yeah. You want to bring it back when you're done?
I can try to.